What is awesome, guys? That's me. I'm awesome. How are we doing today? We are here at Amateur Running Central. Um, yeah, this is what I'm calling myself now, because I am in fact an amateur runner. Um, uh, look at that! Look at that! And look at that spelling! Look at that! Always up here have this. This is a great tool and resource for a lot of people. But basically, I'm going to go over what I've learned with about 2 years of running experience. Uh, as an amateur, like someone who's literally no coach, literally decided to pick up running and learn from other people as best as they can, learn through injury, practice, and just getting better over time. Currently, I'm about 2 months out from my previous injury, which was running on ice. I slipped, fell, sprained my ankle. It's a second-degree sprain, and it was quite bad. But with that, I've got gained a lot of knowledge in how to progress better, stronger, and to do it without burnout, and then just a lot of other things that I have learned along the way. Now, number number one rule in running uh, uh, is you gotta love it. You gotta love running. You have to love running, actually. Um, yeah, that's number one rule. Okay, next rule. It's a love hate relationship. I'm gonna be honest. Some days you just don't want to do it, but then you do it and then you love it, and you never regret a run unless you get injured on it. Now, second, I see a lot of me doing this actually. I'm not going to speak for other people, but let's say we have this graph, right? Here's your Strava graph, right? Look at this. Look at this. We got like 5 miles right here, right here, and we have 10 miles, and then we have 15 miles, right, right here, and then we have 20. Let's skip to 30 at the very top. So 30 miles right here. We got 30 miles right up here. Now, this is what I did in the very first, like, I started running and I got up to 14 like miles per week. And I'm like, you know what? Let's see how far I can go. And this is continued with walk and running inside the actual thing. And so the actual volume of running is probably closer to 8 miles. I did 18 miles total. And it was just walk, run, walk, run. It was like 200 meters of each. I couldn't run consistently. And so I'm like, you know what? Let's see how far I can go. Anyway, this is going to be week by week, you know? Let's put these week. So if you want to build consistency, right? You want to increase no more than 10%. You're going to hear this by so many people, and it's true. It is genuinely true. Now, this part is a little iffy. 5 to 14 miles is generally, you can pretty much go from 0 to 7 in a week, uh, if you're smart about it. If you do it daily rather than just 7 miles a day, you can kind of just do that within the first 2 weeks. Like within 2 weeks, getting up to 15 is not that hard. Um, and especially doing it consistently and then like going from that point, whenever you're first starting to run, you're gonna have crazy fast progress. And so it's a little bit less. So this is coming back from an injury or you're gonna start running. So let's say this is probably like 15 miles and this is 20 miles, right? Like let's just bring those numbers up a little bit. But for the sake of thumb, let's go with the 10% rule for here. So let's say we start off with a 7 mile week. So we start right here, right? Or actually, sorry. Um, this is where you start. You go, you do another 7 mile, right? This is 7 miles. Pretty good. You want to increase it a little bit. Let's go to 10 miles next week. All right, 10 miles. You're at 10 miles then. And then let's run this. I like this routine a little bit. Let's let's do it one more time. Well, let's bump it up to 14 miles. You get 14 miles. That's 2 miles a day. And you're this is 10. This is 10, right? So you're about the same for these next 3 weeks. And then let's do this for a week, right? Let's do this for a week. So we're still at 14. And then you see this random video is like increase mileage. Right? You see this increase right here. And then you're like, dude, I gotta put in so many miles if I'm gonna be good at anything in life. And then here goes this. You're at 20 miles. You increase 7 miles in a single week. And then the next week you hit 30. Well, that says 30. Let's say 35 actually. Now you're at 35 miles a week. You're getting it done. You're putting in those hours. You're waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, putting in 6 miles a day. That's the next week. That's the next week. You know why? Because that last run of the week, your knee started hurting. And now you're injured. Now you gotta build back up. You're not even at 7, and you gotta start at half a mile. You can't even run a mile all in one go. So to put this all in perspective here, the smart plan is let's start with 7, or let's start with 5 actually. So you're at 5 miles for week 1, right? This is the smart plan. Consistently, growth mindset, but also getting better. So we start with 5 miles. We do 5 miles for 2 weeks. Let's go up to 8 miles. Okay? 8 miles right there. Let's do that for 2 weeks, right? Now let's go up. Oh, that's intersecting too much. So, so let's go. That's 8 miles for 2 weeks, right? Let's go up to 12 miles. Right? This is right above that. So right in the middle. And then like that's for this one actually. So it'll be like well, that's 12 miles, right? So let's do that for another week. That's 12, right? Now, this isn't really a 10% rule, but like you're not going from 14 to 20. You're not increasing it by 7. The next one, the next week, because you did 2 weeks of 12. Let's go up to 15. 15, right here. 15 miles a week. You know, that's 2 miles a day, and then plus a little extra on one day. Let's go for a 5K run on one day. You know, that's your day. Okay, you do that for another week, and then let's go up to 18. Right, another 3 miles. You can put that in a double somewhere. You can do 2 miles and 2 miles in one day. You know, make it a long run. You go for 4 miles. So now you're at 18, right? And let's go 18 again, right? And then next week, let's increase it to a good 21. Put 3 per, 3 miles per. Now this is not really 10% just yet. Once you hit 30 miles, that'll be 10%. You're not really gonna get crazy injury if you increase it by like 3 miles when you're in between 0 and 20, 28. And then when you hit 30 is when you have the volume enough to increase it by 3 miles per week and still have nothing to change about it. So go from there to there. You're at 21 miles. Okay? At this same guy, this other version of you, or this random other person that you're trying to be better than, is now not down here at 0. Because injury. He's now at 0. You're here because you were consistent, and lacked ego. So 10%. This is the main key point right here. Or both of these. Lacked ego and then ego. Just put that in the side. So you're up here at 35 miles an hour, or 35 miles an hour. That'd be crazy. That's Usain Bolt's world record. You're here at 30 miles, right? Because you saw some videos like increase your mileage and you want to get really fit and really strong, but you didn't build up to 35 miles. So now, because you thought you were good enough for this yet, you're now down here because your body cannot handle it. And it can't. So you got to get rid of that ego. And to do that, yeah, you're going to have to run 8 miles in your first few weeks. Yeah, then you're going to have to run 12 miles for a couple weeks. You're going to have to run 15. And even so, sometimes this is going to be for 3 weeks. This guy's going to be gone and out because of his injured knee for another week. And then next week, he might start up again. But then by this week, you're going to be up here at 25 miles an hour. Or 25 miles, because in here, you decided to be 22 or something like that. And you increased it by just one. You consistently had progress throughout this week. And this is going by like just not even 10% a week. This is 10% every 2 weeks. Consistency builds up. So this is 1 month, right? This is 2 months, right? This is 3 months, right? You're working on your 4th month right now. So this is 1 month. 2 months. 3 months. These things take time. This takes time. This whole thing takes time. This isn't just grass that like throughout the day. No. This is a week right here. In between these 2 points is 7 full days. In between these points, 7 full days. 7 full days. 7 full days. And now that's 1 full month right there. 7 full days, 7 full days, 7 full days, 7 full days. 1 month. Obviously, I didn't write it correctly. But this is 3 months you're looking at. This is basically an entire summer. Now, if you want to absolutely just like get the most out of your running, prioritize running in the summer months. What? Well, duh. But I'm gonna explain it here. So this is dependent on where you actually live. I live in the Midwest. And because I live in the Midwest, it's hot during the summer. And it's just not like dry hot. It's like you go outside for 10 minutes, you're soaked. You're wet because it is humid. Now, what I've learned from humidity is a runner's best friend in training. Not in a run, not in a race, but in training. Training, humidity is king. I've made more progress in half the miles running in humid weather, like stupidly humid weather, than I have ever had running in winter months. Humidity is king. So I don't know much about the body and how it adapts to it. But basically, because it is humid, your body needs to cool down. Your body, while it's running, it's letting off heat because your body is just like it's burning the calories and just produces heat. Now, when all that heat around you goes in, it goes in, you know what I'm saying? Now your body is now pushing off. This is essentially what it's doing. It's trying to release heat as heat is going in. What does that do? It makes your heart, that little heart right there, it makes it produce like it makes it produce more blood. So basically, heat makes your body produce more oxygen carrying blood, I think hemoglobin or something like that, that make you run faster in humid weather. So it now adapts to the humid weather, which means your heart rate's going to be lower, which means you can push more oxygen to your muscles. If you pair that with hills, running up those hills, you know what I'm saying? We love a good running up hills. Right? If you run up some hills during humid weather, and then long runs in humid weather, all things like this, after you're adapted, makes your normal run, that is like 150 in your normal like zone 2 pace of your heart rate, that now during the heat in humidity is going to be 160, 165. Okay, under good conditions. Now you're going to have to take time to adapt, but in very humid weather, hot weather where the sun's hitting you down, 150 to 165. That's what your heart rate's going to go from. It's 150 to 165. About 15 heart rate increase. Really, more so 15 to 20. It can even be higher than this. But ideally, if you're going to be doing zone 2 runs, like your heart rate, this is your upper limit of zone 2, and then this will be this. And I'm talking about 20 years old. This, once you're adapted, will go back to this. So it'll go back. So your 165 will go back to 150. You remove the humid aspect of this, and then now this normal heart rate changes to 140 to 145. And even I seen my old pace last year when I was doing my training. My normal zone 2 runs were about 11 minutes a mile. Right? This is pretty slow. I'm gonna admit, but I actually ended up hitting twofold improvements. So not only did my time go down, so my zone 2 runs ended up being closer to 10 minutes and 32 seconds. My heart rate went from 147 to 153. Right, this was my zone 2 here for this type of race, and this was for like, let's say, like 5 to 6 months. It would get higher the more, or it would go up. This for the same run, 5 to 6 miles, was now at 139 to 143, and hitting 143 at the highest. And that was after humid training. This is roughly about 3 months of training. 3 months of humid training. Is that doable? Absolutely. When I did start, when it ever was hot and everything, I did start off with like I was already in a 20-mile area, but then I went up. I did a challenge in there. I did the 4x4x48, so 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. It's a Goggins thing. So I did the 4 miles by 4 hour every 4 hours for 48. So I did that in this whole period, in this whole month thing right here. And then I also I brought my miles up to 45 from 20 in 3 months. And you can look on my Strava. You can see what I did to do that. And I'm going to actually remove this part. Humidity is still king, even though I'm erasing it. All right. So we have this. Now, what did that graph look like for me? So we get this graph right here, right? We're starting off with 20 miles, and then here's 45, right? So I hit the peak of 45, and then I did taper down to a 38 to hit a 5K, and that PR for my 5K was over like 3 minutes from my previous, and that was my very first race was a 21:0. It was 21:08. Yeah, it was 21:08, and my goal was 21:45, which was 7 minute per mile pace. I had a 6:36 for 3 miles. Insane, but this is what you can do with proper training, and what I'm talking about here. So this is last year. This is not going to be this year. This year is going to be a lot different in my training. Look forward to it. So we're going to go from 20. This is 30. Actually, we're going to go 45. So we're going to go 25, 30, 35, 30, 35, and then let's say 40 in there. Let's say 40 right here. So we start with 20, and then heat hits right about here. Humidity starts. So here's 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, 5 week, 6 week, 7 week, 8 week, 9 week, 10 week, 11 week. So that's 3 months right there. So I'm doing 20 miles. I bump it up on week 3, 23. Bump it up. Now this when I hit 25, it was terrible. Terrible. This was not fun at all because of the humid weather. So I actually had to decrease back down to 21. And then we went back up on this weather. So we went back up to 25. We did 28. We did right here. Right. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, yeah. Then we went up to 30. And now here's where I did something a little dumb, but also it ended up happening this way. So this doesn't always work with a lot of people, but in the next week I did this. Let's say 48 miles. That was that week. I did the 4x4x48 during very humid weather. And then the next week I went down to 20. Right. And so that was pretty bad. But oh, so I put this wrong. So uh, 30. So 30 going up from 30 to 48. Now that was the one. That was a 2 day challenge, and I did 48 miles that week. Ended up doing that. Stretching correctly ended up not that big of a deal. I went down to 35 miles the next week. I actually ended up doing 30 miles, and it wasn't that bad. So we're right here. This one, this one, this one. Okay. This one, this one. Maybe it was a little longer. I think there was a couple more weeks in here. At least enough, yeah, because this this was in August, and then this was in September. This whole next thing. So this one I did 35 miles the next week. Then I actually went up 40 from 35. That's not what you want to do, but I ended up doing it. I went to 42. Then I held 42, 42. I did 42, and then I went up to 45, tapered down for my last one, down to 38. And then that was the end of my training for that year. After that, I didn't do much else in training. I actually went down to more like 20 miles to just maintain my pace and everything. I did a couple pretty nice runs, but really, I just reaped the benefits of this high mileage training here at the end. And roughly, it's pretty consistent. If you do the graph correctly. Other than this one right here, ideally, I should have done this over here. I should have done this over here, but I like a good challenge. I started off with doing 18 miles an hour. Or 18 miles in a single day. In that week, I did 18 miles. The next, I did 5 miles. Don't know how I did that. The next, I did 7, 8, 7, and then until I got to a 50-mile week total. I remember like going from 18, 5, 7, 8, 7, and then I'm like, okay, if I do 2 more, like 7-mile runs, and I did them. I ended up with shin splints after this, horrible shin splints. This was when I very first started running, and this was like these runs were like walk, run, walk, run. I was like, if I do 2 more miles, 2 more runs at 7 miles, I'll be able to get a 50-mile week, and then when this goes away, right? Let's take that away. And then I'll have that 5-mile week. These 8 miles will be able to keep me at 50-mile weeks, and I will just be at 50-mile weeks. Because I heard from the guy I was getting some running shoes from that 50-mile weeks is where you do ultras. I didn't know you had to build up. Now, I wish someone told me that when I was going. So, build up. Just build up. That's the main purpose of this video. I'm just saying build up. Put your graph on a wall of the thing you want to build up. Kind of just like go up from it and then just build up. If you build up, we need to build up an aerobic base so big, so crazy that a 10K can't even take it down. And in this, you just want to train steady, train consistent. Don't do something like this. That's a no. Not this. But here you can do that, And then like if you go in this week, if you went from 33 to 35, the next week you go even more. Like this would have been higher at 48, and then I could have consistently done 48 per week, no problem up here. I actually would have been on a higher trajectory overall because this would have been fine. This was about the timeline from last year. You can look at my Strava. I had a down week here, I think, where it was a little bit lower, but I still did like 30 in the 30 range, either 32 or 35. But I know I did a 38 right before I hit a 40, and then I went back to a 38, and then I PR'd the 5K. So, this next video, this is just a 30-minute video. I just wanted to try out, I'm going to be honest, what it feels like to use this whiteboard. Ideally, I just want to do YouTube, and there's a lot of just yapping of me. So, if you stay to the end, thanks for watching along as I'm yapping. Yeah. Let's erase this, and I'm gonna post this to YouTube. I'll get better with these presentations as time goes on. But this is step one. Is uploading my very first YouTube about this because I want to do this. So, you have a wonderful day. See you later, alligator.